Back to BVarsity Live. Trevor's over there spouting nonsense during the break. I'll deal with him later. I mixed it up, by the way. Liberty is here first. Bakersfield.
It's weird that Zach would make a mistake.
Third segment. It is weird. It doesn't happen very often, does it? Yeah. Welcome to the show. Please, Luke Fringer, Lorenzo Hidalgo, and Brian Nixon, the coach of the Liberty Patriots. Welcome in, guys. Thank you. We have you here because there's a little football game out at West High tomorrow night. It happens to be a reasonably big, important football game against Bakersfield High. And I just love when these games, Coach, come at the end of the year because they kind of feel like a reward to play in the big games. And I know you played Bakersfield a couple times in the beginning of the league season, and to me that always felt a little bit strange. Mm-hmm. But the schools sort of with the most history of success, at least recently, get to finish the year. And if they do take care of business, it's a reward. It's a championship game.
Oh, definitely. You know, it's one of the things you talk about in Phase 2, and to have that in Week 10 is kind of nice, and it gives you that kind of playoff atmosphere going into the playoffs. So that makes it really nice. You put yourselves in a good position. So really proud of our kids and our program.
Yeah, it's exciting, I think, for everybody around. The game will be at West High. It's Bakersfield High's home game. Of course, they don't have a home field this year, so they're playing at West. Luke, let me ask you, how do you feel about that? It's not Griffith Field. It's not where you've played before. What's that going to be like, you think, at sort of a neutral field?
It's kind of funny because my dad went to West High, so he played there. So it'll be cool to play there, follow in his footsteps. But other than that, I mean, it's just another game. So we just got to be ready to play. The stadium doesn't really affect us.
Once the game gets going, it doesn't really matter. Lorenzo, how about you to face BHS again? I know you guys have had some wars. You've gotten the better of them the last couple of years. How do you feel about? There could be another meeting in the playoffs. We don't know that, but possibly facing them for the last time, and what you expect from this weekend.
Well, BHS, they're a good team, you know. They're very athletic, and they're a good, sound team. They do what they're coached, and they do it well. We just have to come and bring our A game, what we have been doing for the past couple weeks.
Brian, I was thinking about something this morning as we were kind of gearing up for this show, and you've had some fantastic football players that have gone on to big things. I think obviously the one is the guy that's suiting up for the Browns, Cody Kessler, Cody Temple, Cole Meza. Recently, Jordan Love, Anthony Mariscal, Chris Barnes. We'll go down the line. But I think this year, Curtis being done, and obviously there's Johnny, but you get a lot of guys like these two that are just great high school football players and get it. And here you are with a bunch of guys that may not go on to play football ever again after high school, but they're playing at a very high level. Mm-hmm. For you, how rewarding is that to see these guys do that when you know that, they're not going to be Saturday superstars, but they're doing great things for you on Fridays? I
think the other part's an anomaly, and some of the things that we've had so many good guys come through, and that was kind of a blessing in disguise for us that they were able to play the game they did and be able to move on. But we talked about this group all along. We talked about them in January, and then in August when you guys came in, that they're a hard-nosed football team. Yep. They play hard, they're scrappy, they do their job, and it's fun to coach. And they've been a lot of fun to be around since January. Usually sometimes you get kind of tired of being around them, and they get tired of being around us. But I think we've enjoyed each other the entire time. And from Hume Lake on, it's been a very enjoyable process, and they're a lot of fun to watch play.
Luke, don't lie. You got to get tired of Coach and Coach Renz after a while.
I mean, no, I'm just kidding. It's just like every day out there, they're always out there. They're supporting us and getting us better every day. So,
yeah, I guess maybe on that day you get tired of them, but the next day you're ready to go again, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's that. We all have those relationships, I think.
Yes, Buttercup.
Awkward pause. Sorry. Moving on, guys. Coach, when you look at film for BHS, they have what you might call scary film. I mean, every other play seems like they're busting it. That doesn't mean they're going to do that against you guys, but what do you see them doing so well? They haven't had that kind of an offense the last couple of years, but they're certainly back to it now.
Big play capability. They can score from anywhere on the field, be it offense, be it defense, be it special teams. They have pick sixes. They have punt returns. They have big balls, big catches. They have big runs. I mean, it's everywhere. They got big play capability, and that's the only thing you'd really say about it.
Yeah, and if you – I guess that means, Lorenzo, for you guys, if you don't take care of business, you know what can happen, right?
Yeah.
And that's not to say that you guys haven't had your fair share of big plays, but that seems to be, especially the last couple of weeks, what they've done. Let me ask you, Lorenzo, you guys had two big hiccups in the middle of the season, Central and Cathedral Catholic. And now these are two of the best teams in the state. So there's no shame in any of that. But what did it do to you guys? What did it teach you moving forward through the rest of the season?
Well, I mean, you learn when you make mistakes. Obviously, you learn when you lose. That's when you learn the most, and that's really both. We took both of those games, diagnosed the film, and we really just gotten better off of it. We're not looking back from it.
Luke, anything else specific you can remember from those games that you guys have used going forward?
Yeah, I mean, we just learned from them, and we've just on the right path right now. So those games helped us a lot during the season and just got us better.
Does that, to a certain extent, Coach, show you where you want to be when you play a team of that level and they do take it to you? And I know you had injury deals in both games, but regardless, that kind of, hey, this is how far we have to go to get maybe where we were last year.
Yeah, it gave us opportunity to look at ourselves and kind of look ourselves in the mirror and say, what are our weaknesses? They exposed us, and in a lot of ways. When you get a running clock on you, that's kind of exposure. So we were able to, like you said, dissect the film and look at that and say some of the changes we need to make and where do we want to go to be there at the end of the year. And really pleased that these guys accepted that and rallied up, and they've done a nice job.
Lorenzo, you play on the line. When Curtis went down, you found out he wasn't going to play for the rest of the year. How did the guys sort of rally around that? Because it seems like you haven't skipped a beat from the outside.
Well, we kind of use that as fuel to play for someone who has fallen. We all took it to heart and just came together, and it's been pretty good for us. Was
there ever a doubt, Luke, that wouldn't derail you? I mean, you lose a star player like that. Do you have thoughts maybe this is going to go south on us? Was there any of that ever?
Yeah. I mean, he's a great player. We definitely miss him out there on the field, but we just have people to step in for him, and we just keep on rolling.
Coach, how much of last year and the loss you guys went through, and you guys obviously came out on top beating Clovis, did you kind of take into this year when you're kind of going through the preseason and moving into league?
I don't know if we really reflected back on last year. I know we reflected on I continue to talk about the phases of our season. Our phase 1 is the preseason, our phase 2 is league, and phase 3 is the playoff time. So we just kind of dissected phase 1 to see what we had to change for phase 2 to get better. And that's, kind of the thing we look at. And those 2 losses happened in phase 1. So we have to continue to get better and do the little things right.
And I think I talked to you and Paul both a couple of days ago, and I think one thing he said is that, great teams in this state really start playing football in the playoffs. And a lot of times you're beat up, but you got a big plus a couple of weeks ago when Cameron Meek got fully healthy, and he's shown that he's really a big part of this offense. Getting him involved and getting maybe a 2 or 3 headed monster, because now you move Grant Bice out to the slot position or wide receiver position. Him and Sammy Stewart, the sophomore, back there. Getting a piece like that in, how much confidence do you have in your offense now that you've got that 2-headed monster and you guys can kind of roll forward? Kind of reminds me of Anthony and Quincy to a point 2 years ago.
Right. Yeah. No. It's a big plus for us to be able to do that, to have different guys carry the luggage and to rely and take some of that off of each other. Cameron's done a phenomenal job. He has great vision. He's very patient with our offense and running the football. And to be able to win successfully, you have to run the football. And I think that's something we've been able to do the last few weeks, and we're going to continue to try to do that.
Lorenzo, for you, defensively, how much fun is a game like this when you know that you really have to stay with your assignments and you can't get off of them because of the way that they run their offense with that veer option pitch? Does this excite you maybe a little bit more? Not only the intrigue of a league title, but the fact that you have to play so mindful on each snap. Do you get more excited?
You just play every game like you have always done. I mean, we all have a role and we all have to do it in order to succeed.
Man, you guys had a great conversation in the car, didn't you? Because he just basically did coach talk. I love it.
It's beautiful.
Hey, you train him young. You train him young, right? Luke, last year's playoff run, a beautiful thing. I know you guys kind of put it behind you once January hit. Is this a time of year you start to draw back on that and what it was like to play in those big games, and you kind of have that experience somewhere in your head?
Yeah, we definitely use that experience for these type of games, but we don't necessarily look back into the playoff run, but we just focus on the game that's hand, and we use that experience to help us in the game.
I think if anything, Coach, maybe just the patience to get through a regular season that you know is going to have its ups and downs and bumps and bruises, because you guys have been there before. This, like Trevor said, this is the time you start playing. So is that maybe what you take away from having those successes last year? Is that it's not the end of the world what happens in September and October?
Definitely, I think that's 100% how these guys have looked at it. Things we've talked about in the past with them, and they go and they reflect on those, they learn from them, and we know we have to play great football if we want to continue to be together.
Is there a guy, and again, to look at Bakersfield High's film, they've got a McGill, they've got a Wright, they've got an Ochoa, a Williams, a Jackson. I'm going to leave somebody out, a Shane Jones. I mean, is there anybody in particular you say that's the guy we have to shut down? Or is it too dangerous to play that game?
It's too dangerous. You can't get your eyes in bad spots. You have to do your job, and you have to be a responsible defense that tries to keep everything in front of you. And not many teams have been able to do that, but we have to try to keep everything in front of us and get 11 guys doing their job. And otherwise, you get your eyes off one guy and another guy will beat you.
And how hard is that, guys? I mean, Luke, when you know that they're out there and that there's a potential of big plays and you want to make a big play, I mean, how hard is it to stay focused in that moment in these big games?
Yeah, they have a lot of playmakers out there, so but everyone's assigned to a playmaker, so everyone just has to do their job and focus on their keys and just read the right plays.
Lorenzo, when you're on offense, playing against that defensive front and all the movement they do and all the stunts and the hopping around and all these sort of things, is that a lot different than normal for you, or are you just paying attention to what you do?
You just have to play. We just have to play how we practice. We just have to go do our own jobs and stay disciplined to what we do.
You've coached against Paul Gola for a long time now, Brian. Do you expect him to come up with a wrinkle for a game like this, or do you just sort of know what you're going to get?
Yeah, sometimes they have wrinkles with the blocking schemes and different things that they do, but you know what you're going to get when you play them, and when they're able to run the option the way they're running it and run the dive and run the pitch game, and then they have the two-headed monster, as Trevor calls it, with two different quarterbacks, and then they run it from the pistol. There's a lot to prepare for there, and then defensively, you don't see that every week. And you got to get your guys to understand that the movement has a purpose that they do, and we got to get our guys to do their job.
Playoff seeding's coming out Saturday. Any concern to you at all? I mean, obviously this game's going to affect you. Are you one of those guys who's going to check out the bracket as soon as you can get it in your matchups and those sort of things, or is it just wherever the chips fall, we'll go play?
It's one of those things you kind of do a little bit of both.
Yeah.
I mean, you look at it to see where you're at, but the thing you're most worried about or concerned about is that next game, and that's kind of what we look forward to. And it's the chess match and the process of who we're going to see. Then you try to find film on them and do the best you can.
Well, this is the Liberty Patriots in central place tonight against a winless Clovis East team. Assuming they win, they will almost certainly be the number 1 seed. But the winner of this game, probably the number 2 in our book anyway. I know you guys not really worried about that too much. But this is one half of that matchup, and we're going to be back with the other half after this, Bakersfield High. For now, thanks for joining us, Coach Brian Nixon, Lorenzo Hidalgo, and Luke Fringer. Thanks, guys. Good luck tomorrow.